Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Mondays. This is episode 86 and I've got loads to talk to you guys about today. So strap in, get the paintbrush ready, get the beverage ready because it's going to be a big episode, I think. So the first thing that I'm going to be talking about is what I've been working on hobby-wise. Then we'll move on to some of the reveals that we've seen this weekend, Deathcore of Krieg and Black Templars. And then last but certainly not least, I'll be doing a little bit of a sneak preview on the tournament report video that I'm going to be doing because I went to a tournament this weekend and I took Pure Scions, and it was a very, very interesting and fun event. So anyway, speaking of Scions, let's start off with the hobbying side of things. So the event that I went to this weekend, it didn't have any painting restrictions on it, and so I originally was going to take my Armageddon Steel Legion because they were fully painted and I wanted to give the Armoured boys a run. But when I found out that the painting painting wasn't an issue, I was like, oh, you know what, I might take my Scions. And I put a little poll out and everyone was like, yeah, take Scions, but don't take unpainted models. And I was like, okay. So I've gone from having to do no prep for this tournament to having to basically paint, half or 75% of a Scion army in 3 days. Alright YouTube, alright supporters, alright my loyal conscripts, if you want me to take Scions and do a crap load of painting, I will do. And so that's what I did. And so I actually was able to get all the Scions and more that you see in this picture done in about 3 nights worth of painting. And the crazy thing is that I'm back at work full time now. So I've been working throughout the pandemic entirely, but I've been working from home. But I'm back in the office now. And so, I don't have as much time to paint, and that's not me, if in case my employer ever comes across this, that's not me saying I was painting during work hours, but I used to literally be able to go, okay, done for the day, close the laptop, and then be like, sweet, oh look, I'm at my painting station, and then I just start painting, and there's nothing to worry about. And of course, if I had finished my lunch early and I had like an extra half an hour, I could get a bit of painting done here and there. I could do a bit of painting in the morning. There's loads of opportunities for painting when I was working at home. Not so much when I was back in the office, so I had the least amount of time to get quite a lot of work done. But fortunately, my Scion scheme is really simple. It's not like my Mordian scheme, which takes me a week to do 5 guys. It's got edge highlighting and all those sorts of stuff. My Scion scheme is very much tabletop ready. That's as good as it needs to be. It's one thin coat with a wash base. It's one not thin coat, but it's more like one semi. It's not like a thick podgy coat, but it's basically one undiluted coat, but of fresh paint over a black base coat, and then I wash it with a complementary wash. If I do a blue paint, I will do a blue wash on it, for example, which adds it's like doing another thin layer, a very thin watered down layer, which actually helped cover up all of the base coat that I put the paint on. So it worked really, really well. The only exception to that was the red great coats on the Tempesta Primes. I did do 2 thin coats there because that is such a strong colour, and red is a strong colour. And if you blue, dark blue, navy blue over black, you can get away with it. But bright red, no, you can't do 1 layer and a wash on that. That needs 2 layers and needs a wash. It needs to be done properly. But yeah, so I had loads to do, and so my army was actually a bit of an eclectic mix. So I had, plastic Scions combined with Cadian Kazakin, and they were all in the blue and black colour scheme, and they came out really, really well. It's kind of funny, I've gone full, my Cadian Kazakin have been painted, stripped, and painted again. So originally they were blue and black, and then they went to the Mordian 50th Rifle scheme, which was red and blue, and then red and tan, sorry, and now they're back to being like blue and black again, but a slightly different version of it. So they've almost come full circle with those guys. And then I also had my Assault Corps, which is my classic metal stormtroopers. Now, I will admit, I used the classic metal stormtroopers that were fully painted in my green and blue, so they didn't quite match the black and blue colour scheme. And I could have used 2 different regiment traits because of that, because obviously 2 colour schemes, 2 regiment traits. But I decided I just wanted to keep things simple for gameplay. So even though I had 2 different colour schemes for the event, everything was Lambton Lions. And I checked that, you know, with the tournament organisers, and they actually said that would be preferred, because it just makes it easier. If everything is one rule, it actually makes it easier. People don't have to remember the different colour schemes and what they mean. And when I checked my opponents, I just said, oh, by the way, like, just get some feedback here, what do you think? They were like, no, it is better. We actually don't care what the colour scheme is, it's what the rules are. And all my opponents were like, yeah, it's easier to remember one rule across the army than those coloured guys mean one thing, those coloured guys mean another thing. So it's funny that, isn't it? We all assume that, you know, that would be confusing, but actually it wasn't at all. Or maybe they're just being polite. Who knows? Anyway. So in terms of painting, yeah, I got loads of hotshot las guns done, I got loads of plasma done, melter done, I got 3 Tempest Primes. So I finally, after having Scions for God knows how long, in various guises, you know, Kazakin, Scions, Stormtroopers, I finally have 3 Tempesta Primes with Command Rod. Okay? It's finally done. I've had guys who I've said, oh, that's a Command Rod, because I've done like a little data slate on his arm and he's holding a dagger. I've done all that kind of stuff. Not messing around with that anymore. Red Greatcoat guys equal Tempesta Primes, and it just makes it so much easier. What was really, really interesting in this game, in this tournament, and this is a hobby thing, is that at no point did my opponents have to go, oh, is that a character or not? You see, with my Mordians, because there's so many infantry and the officers are painted in similar colours to my regular infantry, often I had to say, that guy's a character, by the way, and my opponent goes, oh, and it's a bit of a gotcha. It always makes me feel a bit bad, because I've tried to go for uniformity to make the colour scheme look good, but it has caught my opponent out, and I've never done it on purpose. But because of the red greatcoats being the Tempesta Primes, the Lord Commissar is wearing a big black greatcoat and looks like a Commissar. The priest is an old Warhammer 40k, almost an Age of Sigmar, but Warhammer 40k, Warhammer Fantasy Priest, almost an Age of Sigmar, and then I said Warhammer. It's bad. He's a Warhammer Fantasy Priest, and then the Inquisitor just looks like an Inquisitor, you know. It was the first tournament where, even though I was running lots of infantry, lots of characters, none of my opponents had any issues with spotting my characters, which is actually a really big sort of personal win for me, because I hate bamboozles and I hate gotchas and stuff like that. So that was a really big positive moment for me. Just a little personal victory on the hobbying front there. But yeah, so in terms of how I actually did the colour scheme, obviously I've talked about what I got done and how it's affected. In terms of how I actually do the colour scheme, it's a really strong, even base coat of Chaos Black, or do they call it a Baden Black these days? It's the Games Workshop black spray paint. I do layer it on a little thick, and I make sure I get every little bit with the spray paint to make sure it's nice and smooth, and so there's no grey showing through. And then I do the blue. I do Macragge blue, and like I said, I just do 1 layer of Macragge blue, and then I wash that blue in Drakenhof Nightshade, which is a dark blue shade, but that really helps. And then the weapons, I do a layer of what's it called? Standard Mechanicus Grey, I think that's what it's called. Mechanicus Grey. I have it in front of me. Don't know why I can't find it now. But yeah, I'm sure. Mechanicus Standard Grey. There you go, not Standard Mechanicus Grey. It's a base coat. I think all of these are base coats, to be honest, which does help, because base coats are a bit better than layer coats for doing this kind of stuff. And then I wash that in Norn Oil, and I do the same for metallics, and I use Retributor Gold for the gold, and I use Ironbreaker for the silver. Those are my preferred ones. Some of the gold you'll see in this picture are some of the old melter guns that I did, which was like half done. So you might see some that go, they're not Retributor Gold, they're done with Genna Gold, but I've moved away from Genna Gold now and I use Retributor Armour. So much better. Yeah, and then the blue, and that's basically the main colours, really. That's basically the main colours. So yeah, it's really, and then I do Mornfine Brown for any brown bits you see, and I wash that in Norn Oil. So yeah, really simple. So it worked really, really well. As you can see, they're not Golden Demon standard or anywhere near, but they are not terrible. You know, they're not terrible. They're perfectly serviceable tabletop standard, which is what we like. And the thing with my Scions is what I've realised, and what I've realised with my hobbying in general, bit of an epiphany recently, between the Black Templars and the Scions, I've had a bit of an awakening, you might say, which is my Mordians are the models that I can paint to the best of my ability. Okay, using the techniques and the ways, I'm a bit set in my ways, but the best models that I can possibly paint and the most care and attention, and my hobby army, my pride and joy, is my Mordian 50th Rifles. My other armies, and we're talking Black Templars and Genestealer Cult and Scions now, I don't need to paint them to the best of my ability. And actually, I get frustrated where, I burn out if I do every model and every army to the best of my ability. I just need it to be tabletop standard. I need it to be good enough to go to a tournament and suffer no painting penalty, or to get maximum painting score. There needs to be a bit of freehand here and there, a little bit, but really that's it. And it needs to be good enough for the camera, for battle reports. And that's where the majority of my armies need to lie, because I am a one-man army, and if I burn myself out, it's bad. And what I tend to find is I get about 90% through an army and then flake out. My Black Templar sat at about 90% completed for years. I just decided to go back and do it properly. Go back and just finish all the models off, finish the project, and do the vehicles. And when I went back to doing the vehicles, rather than doing them with like loads of white on them, I did them with Administratum Grey and made it super easy on myself. And that made a huge difference. And it's the same with these Scions. Like, they look perfectly good for tabletop. They look perfectly good in front of a camera from a distance. And that's kind of the standard I'm going to be doing going forward for new armies. So new armies like my Orcs, Scions, they are going to be getting the tabletop standard, and my Mordians are for when I want to sit down and actually just paint to the best of my ability and just enjoy that process. But yeah, alright, so that's where we are on the hobbying front. Now let's talk about reveals. Let's talk about the Plastic Deathcore of Krieg. So, Plastic Deathcore of Krieg is finally here. I have been talking about Plastic Deathcore of Krieg for a while. One of my Inquisition contacts said to me over a year ago, well over a year ago, maybe it was last summer, who knows, COVID is a bit of a time warping thing, but it was last summer, I think it was, when I was basically told that Plastic Deathcore of Krieg would be coming out in time for, in like sort of six months. And it's been 12 months, so I think basically these were delayed by about 6 months, roughly. But yeah, Plastic Deathcore of Krieg are here. Absolutely fantastic news. Really, really big news. So they're currently going to be sold as part of the Kill Team box, which for me personally is a massive win, because I have Orcs and I have Deathcore of Krieg, and I want more of both. So I will be buying lots of the Kill Team box, and I'll probably be getting loads of terrain and stuff that I can use in battle reports and everything as well, because whilst I love the battle systems terrain that I've got, it's always good to have a bit of variety of the terrain. And if I don't end up using the terrain, if it's not for my cup of tea, then I can either give it to the local club or I can sell it on eBay and make some money back on the Kill Team box. So there's loads of options. But yeah, I will be doing a full video going through all the different little Deathcore of Krieg things. Because obviously it's a really big deal. It sounds like I'm not that excited about it. I'm super excited about it. I'm almost just overwhelmed by it. Like, it's crazy. How many years have we heard rumours of plastic trenchcoat guardsmen, and they're finally here? Now, I have heard some people being like, "Oh, the scale looks a bit different. Are they on the scale of the Gaunt's Ghost rather than regular guardsmen and stuff like that?" I think it's really difficult to tell now. Tell at this moment, because obviously we haven't seen them side by side at the actual model side by side. We've seen some people putting pictures side by side, but that doesn't. You don't know what the scale of each pitch that, do you? Really? Like, come on. But I mean, it might work. I don't know. But I think the scale is that these guys are certainly going to be bigger than your regular Deathcore of Krieg, because the simple fact is they're in plastic, and the other simple fact is is that regular Death Korps Krieg are smaller than Cadians. They're really, really dainty. They're really like thin and spindly. I mean, the las rifles are always breaking off. I'm very fortunate that I have a big army of Death Korps Krieg Reza models that was actually gifted to me by a very, very loyal subscriber to this channel, Guardsman Varney, who I am eternally grateful for. And I'm just really excited to expand upon that project. I'm really, really excited to expand upon it. And I'm just really interested to see what else we get. Now, do I think we're going to get full plastic Death Korps riders and stuff like that? I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. But I mean, we know we're getting plastic Guardsmen. And the really big thing, which I know a lot of people will be asking, is are these monopos, or can we do other bits with them? So there's been loads of leaks and reveals around the actual sprue of the Death Korps, and it looks like they're full multi-part, multi-posable models. So yeah, overall, really pleased with this announcement by Games Workshop. Super excited, cannot wait to get my hands on loads of boxes of these guys. I think it's going to be really, really cool. It's another excuse for me to, to expand my Krieg and maybe even get a whole new regiment, because I could use my current Krieg as part of my Steel Legion and maybe do these Krieg in a different paint scheme and then have another regiment. All the regiments of Guard. That's what I want. I have to say, before moving on to talk about like Black Templars for a minute, Guard have been getting a lot of love recently. And it feels a bit weird. I'm not, I'm in this abusive relationship with Games Workshop, and it's a bit weird when they keep being nice to me, and giving me love and all that kind of stuff. But it's not unwelcome. In fact, it's very welcome. And I don't know if this means we'll be getting a Guard Codex in 2021. I haven't had anything from my Inquisition sources. But I don't, between the Gaunt's Ghosts, between the Krieg, who must be getting, they were getting kill team rules. They'll probably be getting rules in the new Warzone Octavius book. Is it Octarius book? Between the upgrade sprue for Cadians, and then we've seen Catachan Colonel, and we've seen Sergeant Jackson, Ripper Jackson. Guard have been getting a steady drip feed of new releases, and it's made me think, and that drip feed, that has gone from a drip to like a steady trickle now. And I would be really excited to see, really interested to see if that trickle is going to go to a flood, and we get not only get a new Guard Codex, but as part of that new Guard Codex, we get some more models. Now, I am going to be absolutely clear. I have no idea if we're getting a new codex anytime soon. Nothing from my sources. I have no idea what new models we're going to be getting. This was the last thing I had sort of rumoured that I had an advance warning on, was these guys. So it'll be interesting to see if anything else comes up my way. But yeah, really excited. I don't know if this means we're getting a codex this year, but if you're releasing new Krieg models, releasing new Gaunt's Ghost, you don't want Gaunt's Ghost to be in like a data sheet floating around randomly. You want them to be in a codex. You don't. Games Workshop doesn't really like models not having codexes, so we might be getting a codex sooner than expected, but pure guesswork on my end there, guys. So last but not least, in terms of reveals, I want to talk about Black Templars. Now, I had some advance warning that Black Templars were coming, but only from a rumour board, a rumour thread on the Bolter and Chainsaw Black Templar area that I sort of lurk in and sort of occasionally comment in. Apparently, it's going to be a big deal. The person to really check out about this is Chapter Master Varak. He is sort of the marine guy, and he has apparently seen loads and loads of fantastic Black Templar things. But from what I know, it's going to be quite a big deal. Now, it's a bit of a funny thing is for me, is it's a bit of a double-edged sword, a bit of a dilemma. Because I have a full Black Templar army. Hell, I have a full Black Tide army, and I've just spent a month completely like firstborn meching my army. So I have a really, really wide firstborn collection for my Black Templars. I have no Primaris stuff. And I suspect that this Black Templar release is going to be Primaris focused. And maybe we'll get our own supplement finally. And I'm really, you know, I don't mind if Black Templar becomes super popular and I'm no longer special. That doesn't really bother me. I just really hope that the buffs and stuff that Black Templars will be getting, if they get any, will be allowed for Firstborn as well. Because I don't really want to, you know, finally, I'm one of the last, you know, most people have jumped on the Primaris bandwagon a long time ago and they have become pretty mainstream at this point. I am a bit of a holdout, I'm not going to lie. Bit of a long beard, I'm not going to lie. Maybe a bit of a neck beard when it comes to Firstborn. But, you know, I don't, you know, it's a bit of a funny one because I love my Black Templars and I would be really interested in getting some of their new stuff if it's super, super cool. I just, you know, I don't really want to get Primaris stuff. So what I really hope is that I'm able to use the new Black Templar stuff with my Firstborn Marines. That's my hope. I don't know if it'll pay off. Who knows, maybe Crusaders will still be 15 points when this book drops. If so, that'll be cool. If not, well, it was good while it lasted. But yeah, we'll have to see about that. Anyway, we'll leave that bit there, and we'll now go on to talking about this tournament that I went to, and I'll give you guys a bit of a too long didn't read on the event. So yes, I went to an event this weekend, and it was really, really good. So it was a one-day event, and I faced 3 different players, 3 different armies, and it was a good event. There was some real tough lists there. So I faced, just to give you an idea, obviously Turners, you can see by this picture, absolutely fantastic. That was actually my 3rd game. So in order, I faced the new Sisters of Battle. I then faced Lucius Adeptus Mechanicus. And then I faced Tyranid Monster Mash. So 3 very different armies. The Tyranid list was definitely, the Tyranid game was probably my most fun because it was 2 8th edition armies and it felt very, you know, balanced and felt very right. You know, there's no too much craziness on the other side. And then facing off against the new Sisters, the new Admech was really, really good because whilst they were both very, very tough games, and I'm not going to reveal any of the scores or points or results now. I'll have to wait till tomorrow to find that out. Get you guys all hyped up and excited for it. But whilst it was 2 very, you know, potentially very tough games against new codexes and new armies, experienced players, it was very beneficial. Because between this tournament and the last tournament, I have basically faced all of what you could consider the top meta armies. I'm not talking about specific lists, I'm talking about factions. So I have now faced 9th edition Marines. I have now faced, you know, in a competitive environment, I have faced Dark Elder, I have faced Death Guard, I have faced Sisters, and I have faced Admech, all in a competitive environment. In fact, I would say out of the last 6 tournament games I have played, only one of them has been against a non-9th, non-meta army. And that was the Tyranid game. And, you know, all of those games have been really, really tough. And, you know, in the past I would have been a bit salty, be like, oh, I keep facing, you know, getting bad matchups, blah, blah, blah. But in now I don't mind because when I get to go and, you know, face these tournament armies and really have a really strong, close game against them, I can bring those results back and I can share them with people, you know, the guard community. We can learn from them. So I have to say, even though the last 2 tournaments have been really tough, you know, I'm going in with one arm tied behind my back. I'm using an 8th edition deck. You know, I'm using guard in one guise or another. I have to say that it has been a hugely beneficial learning experience, and I feel like I have a really good handle on the competitive play and the competitive meta. You know, both of the events, I should say, the event this weekend had really, really good terrain. It was definitely a bit more, you know, function over form, but it certainly was very, very good and very functional. You can see that big circle that, you know, the Bulgans are on the left in this picture. That's a crater, for example. You know, it doesn't need to be this plastic thing that your models fall over on. It's just a disc with some texture on it, and it's a crater, right? So it's good. But yeah, 3 games. Plenty of time, 3 hours per round, plenty of time for lunch. It was really, really good, really well run event. Played against hard lists, all of them were competitive. None of the players were pulling any punches. And I won't reveal any specific scores or anything, but what I can tell you is that the Scions did very well, and my suspicions, my theory crafting about Scions being strong are correct. And I certainly feel like they are Dark Elder light. The maneuverability, the firepower that they're able to put out, and the fragility, it very much feels like if you want to play Dark Elder without the bad reputation and maybe give yourself, you know, a bit of a challenge, you should seriously consider playing Militant better Scions. Not exaggerating, not joking. They are good. And if you were to sort of twist my arm and say, which one do you think did better, you know, your Pure Infantry Guard or your Pure Scion army, it's really tricky because obviously those two armies play very, very differently. But what I can tell you, and I will go into more detail on that, and I will give a proper answer tomorrow, you know, don't want to give everything away in this video. What I would say is that the Scions were in many ways easier to pilot, less stressful to play with, because timings and times were not an issue at all. When I use my Pure Infantry Guard, I have to be really Johnny on the spot, running around, do my turns as quickly as possible. When I was using my Scions, I did have time to think, which is important with that army because it is a bit more of a thinking man's army than the sending the next wave Guard army. So it was interesting, and what I can tell you is that I can certainly see Scions being my go-to competitive Guard army going forward, just because they logistically are easier. But are they more powerful? Well, you'll have to wait till tomorrow to find that out. And you know what? We'll leave this video there. So to give you an idea of what I'm going to be doing for videos, forward look for the rest of the week, tomorrow is going to be the tournament after action report. I'll go through all three games. It'll be very similar to the last one I did with the Pure Infantry Guard. And then the day after that, we'll be doing a bit more of an in-depth look at some of the Krieg stuff. Because whilst I've touched on it today, I would quite like to actually do more of a deep dive, look at some of the models, look at what is actually in the Kill Team box. Now I do appreciate that, it's going to be a bit old news, doing a Kill Team discussion box on Wednesday when it came out on Saturday. But the focus of this channel at the moment is very much on the competitive side of things and less on the hobby side of things. And also, I'm really personally, I'm just super excited to talk to you about the tournament after action report, whilst it is still vaguely fresh in my head. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Put your predictions down below for how you think the Scions did. Do you think that I was able to beat Sisters, Admech and Tyranids? Do you think that I was able to beat any of them? Did I lose to all of them? Put your predictions down in the comment section below. Of course, let me know how hyped you are about the Death Corps of Krieg, and what you're going to be looking for in those models, and if you think we'll be getting any more plastic models, plastic Death Riders, who knows? And of course, as always, if you have liked what you've seen here today, please consider heading on over to the Patreon page. There will be a link down in the description below. This channel is entirely funded by Patreon supporters. I don't monetize any of my videos. I'm super transparent with where the money goes and all that kind of stuff. Huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. Your generosity is what allows me to go to these events, build these new Guard armies, stay competitive, and bring that information back and share it with the fellow Guard community. The true heroes of this channel are truly the Patreon supporters. That sounds so cheesy, but I'm going to leave it in because it's true. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.